You had a video, one of your YouTube videos here just a couple of weeks ago, and I want to draw on that video. And that was Elon Musk focus on AI and its alignment with human goals. And again, we'll put this link in the show notes. But I have a couple of questions regarding strategic implications of AI in business. So, how can businesses, especially those involved in M&A, incorporate AI into their strategic planning, keeping the objective function of maximizing understanding in mind? So I
Hmm.
know you've kind of alluded to that. We touched on it earlier in the conversation a little bit, but can you dig into that a little bit further?
Yeah. So for some context, Elon Musk started X.AI, and the objective function that he has picked for his AI is to achieve maximum understanding of the universe. So this is a an AI that is pure curiosity, unbridled curiosity for the sake of just move towards the truth, whatever the truth happens to be. Which from a intellectual perspective, I think that's a wonderful objective function. I don't think it's necessarily the best objective function for an AI, particularly if it's going to become super intelligent, but it's a good
Yeah.
start. Now, how that intersects looking forward strategically for M&A activities. One thing to keep in mind is, well, as I mentioned earlier, in some cases, I think margins are going to really thin out. So if I had a checkbook with $1 billion, I would not be buying any companies where most of the labor is actuarial or that sort of thing. Like even law work, I think is the margins are just going to completely collapse.
Mm.
And I have some lawyer friends that are actually worried about that. But fortunately,
Yeah.
you need to be licensed to practice law. The lawyers will be around for a while, even if the law oriented products and services maybe thin out.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of objective functions and the direction that AI is going, it's almost like you have to look in terms of first principles, right? Because there's so much inertia in the marketplace today of things that exist because of trends that are decades old. And so one of the things that I look for, and again, this is just completely amateur advice, is what is actually needed by consumers, right? Like and I don't mean like, durable consumer goods necessarily, but that's not a bad place to start. Like we all need a place to live, we need food, we need healthcare. And so by kind of taking a first principles approach to looking at the way that industries and sectors are going to be impacted, I feel like that's probably a good way to say like, okay, well, whatever else changes, people are going to need basic goods and services. And then, some goods and services might go away or they might fundamentally change. So for instance, we briefly touched on longevity earlier. I wouldn't be surprised if 20, 50 years from now, hospitals go out of business because we
Mm.
don't need them anymore. Right.
Mm.
And that's a really like, pie in the sky,
It's a crazy
possibly
thought, isn't it?
yeah, wishful thinking. Right.
It's
But it's not outside the realm of possibilities. And the reason is, after, within weeks of making that video, there's been several articles published about combinations, new cocktails of exotic, plant medicines that actually biologically reduce the age of your cells. And it's been, validated, and there's mouse models proving this. And it just seems like we're accelerating. And so, just as an example, imagine that this trend, just take it out to the nth degree. Okay. Everyone is as healthy as they were when they were 18 years old. Like that would be great. Let me tell you, I've got some joints that will be really happy with me if we can do that. But if
Yeah.
everyone is as healthy as they were when they were 18, that completely changes the healthcare industry. And then all of the subsidiary industries that are entailed by the healthcare industry. So that's kind of the direction that things might be going. So, I might not be investing in hospitals, but, you invest in the AI that can make the new medicines. There's a meme going around that says, when everyone's digging for gold, sell shovels. And so that's why the NVIDIA stock price has tripled in the last 6 months because they're
Yeah.
selling the shovels. So I don't know if that helps answer your question, but that's kind of word on the street right now.
Yeah, no, that's good. Thank you, David. I appreciate that. What strategies can businesses employ to ensure that their AI initiatives align with human curiosity and the goal of understanding? You look just at Chat GPT, for instance, and you've got students now writing papers in 5 minutes.
Yep.
And I know there's a lot going on there in terms of being able to determine what's written by AI and what's not. But any thoughts on just strategies that our listeners can consider and employ to ensure that this idea of human curiosity and the goal of understanding continues to be a major part of corporate culture despite these incredible advances in AI?
Yeah. Well, I guess I'll answer in two parts. The first part will be from an evolutionary perspective of humans, and the second part will be from more of an organizational perspective. I'm imagining you've probably read The Fifth Discipline, and many of you listeners probably have as well.
Yeah.
But from an evolutionary perspective, humans, like, we doubled down on intelligence, right? The smarter you are, the better off you are because you can solve more problems and you can solve them faster. This is particularly true in the tech industry, and this is kind of what I built my career on. Is that you got a star player who can solve a technology problem literally 100 times faster than someone who isn't. And like, I can't tell you the number of times that I was, roped into an IT problem that they had been fiddling with for hours, sometimes days, and I figured it out in 20 minutes. And so intelligence is almost always advantageous. And, you might say, well, intelligence on its own is not the same as wisdom or understanding. When I say intelligence, I mean all of the above, the judicious application of problem solving to achieve good outcomes. So from an evolutionary perspective, more understanding is always better. The more you understand the business, the technology, the market, the more you understand people, the better you're going to do. And, this is proven out by all the greatest leaders throughout all of history. They were all prodigious readers. And if they weren't prodigious readers, they talked to everyone that they could and learned directly from people. So understanding is always advantageous. And then from an organizational perspective, to me, the most valuable thing that I learned from reading The Fifth Discipline was the concept of the learning organization. And it's a different paradigm when, rather than thinking of people as cogs, you think of people as active participants in raising the tribal knowledge of the entire organization. And I think that AI has the ability to turn that up to 11. And so, I guess the TLDR that I'd give you and your listeners is focus on being that learning organization. Focus on using the superpower that humans have, which is our intelligence. And of course, no two people are created equal in terms of cognitive abilities, whether it's emotional intelligence or visuospatial intelligence or whatever. I think there's like 8,000 different types of intelligence that have been categorized by some psychologists. Everyone has different strengths and weaknesses. And really what I would say focusing on in terms of developing that culture and developing curiosity is allow people to really flourish and focus on whatever their key strengths are and figure out a way to allow them to contribute back to the tribal knowledge of the whole organization. And that's where you'll see some really, really good magic happening, I think.